What's the difference between a wet raccoon and Donald J. Trump's hair? A wet raccoon doesn't have $7 billion fucking dollars in the bank. Plus, by a lot. They had her on tape. All of a sudden, that story changed.
No,
she
that's
didn't
not true.
talk
She
about
says her story has remained exactly the same. She was
really?
knocked a little
Can
bit
I
off.
read this to you then,
Yeah, that she was knocked off
Do you mind
balance,
if I
but
read
she
this to
remained
you?
standing.
Do you
go
mind
ahead.
if I read you her statement?
Yeah, please.
I mean, give me a break. You know, the problem is everybody dumps people when there's like a sign of political incorrectness. I'm just going to read, if I can find it.
She said she was almost knocked off balance, but
she said she was
standing.
almost knocked off balance. Right? Here's what she said. You want to read it, or you want me to do it? You're a professional announcer. Why don't you read it? The bottom part. The bottom. Now, that's an exact quote from her prior to seeing the cameras, and now she says, "Oh, I better change my story, I guess."
This quote says, "I was jolted backwards. Someone had grabbed me tightly by the arm and yanked me down. I almost fell to the ground, but was able to maintain my balance nonetheless. I was shaken. Campaign managers aren't supposed to try to forcefully throw reporters to the ground." She did not go down the ground.
No, let me just, okay, before she knows, folks, look, I'm a loyal person. I'm going to be loyal to the country. I'm going to be loyal to Wisconsin. We have to tell it like it is. It would be so easy for me to terminate this man, ruin his life, ruin his family. He's got 4 beautiful children in New Hampshire, ruin his whole everything, and say you're fired, okay? I fired many people, especially in The Apprentice. But look what she says, Michelle Fields, who, by the way, she's not a baby, okay? In her own words, exactly, I was jolted backwards. Well, she wasn't. I mean, she's standing there. Someone had grabbed me tightly by the arm, and yanked me down. She wasn't yanked down. She was like, she didn't even have any expression. If somebody in this audience gets whacked or gets hurt, including me, you get hit a little bit, you go, wow, there's no emotion. Okay, wait a minute. I almost fell to the ground. I almost fell to the ground. She didn't almost fall to the ground. He got in her way. And by the way, she was grabbing me. Am I supposed to press charges against her? Oh, my arm is hurting. Anderson, my arm is just killing me. It's never been the same.
You've suggested you might.
Excuse me. I didn't suggest.
Well, yeah, you did.
I tweeted. No, I tweeted. I asked
a tweet
the
is a suggestion.
Should I press charges?
Are you going to?
Sure. I don't know. Maybe I should, right? Because you know what? She was grabbing me. You know, they say when you do this kind of an event, you always start out with a self-deprecating joke. Some people think this would be tough for me, but the truth is, the truth is I'm actually a modest person, very modest. It's true. In fact, many people tell me that modesty is perhaps my best quality. Even better than my temperament. But last night they said that was the most vicious debate in the history of politics, presidential debate, the most vicious. And I don't know, are we supposed to be proud of that, or are we supposed to be unhappy? But they did say that, and I'm trying to think back to Lincoln. I don't think they can really compete with that. But the candidates have some lighthearted moments together, which is true. I have no doubt that Hillary is going to laugh quite a bit tonight, sometimes even at an appropriate moment. And even tonight, with all of the heated back and forth between my opponent and me at the debate last night, we have proven that we can actually be civil to each other. In fact, just before taking the dais, Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me." And I very politely replied, "Let me talk to you about that after I get into office." just, you know, he wants to be a tough guy. A lot of times, you'll have, and it doesn't work very well with
How tough is it to take property from an elderly woman?
Let me talk. Quiet.
How tough is it?
A lot of times, that's all of his donors and special interests out there. So, that's what it is. That's what, and by the way, let me just tell you, we needed tickets. You can't get them. You know who has the tickets for the, I'm talking about to the television audience? Donors, special interests, the people that are putting up the money. So it is. The RNC told us we have all donors in the audience, and the reason they're not loving me, the reason they're not loving me is I don't want their money. I'm going to do the right thing for the American public. I don't want their money. I don't need their money. And I'm the only one up here that can say that. She said if somehow she gets elected, she wants me to be, without question, either her ambassador to Iraq or to Afghanistan. It's my choice. But one of the things I noticed tonight, and I've known Hillary for a long time, is this is the first time ever, that Hillary is sitting down and speaking to major corporate leaders and not getting paid for it. It's true. It's true. It's true. Their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done, and it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about it now.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. Really? In the first debate,
and the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible. It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Frankly, I don't even think they give a damn about education, half of them. And I'm sure some maybe do.
Want to use that word in this forum?
I will. Because people want to hear the truth, Frank. I watch you all the time. They want to hear the truth.
Correct.
We have to be able to express ourselves.
But referring to people as rapists, referring to John McCain, a war hero, 5.5 years as a POW, and you call him a dummy. Is that appropriate in running for president?
Okay, you got to let me speak, though, Frank, because you interrupt all the time, okay? So, no, I know him too well. That's the problem.
In the center of the stage tonight, businessman Donald Trump.
I would never give up my microphone. I thought that was disgusting. That showed such weakness. The way he was taken away by 2 young women, the microphone, they just took the whole place over. That will never happen with me. I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will. But that was a disgrace. The way they took, I felt badly for him. But it showed that he's weak. You want to be what, vice president? Oh, now his question's no longer as good. He had great credibility until he said that. Now it's like, where did he come from?
I said trade deals. Who would do better? I know, I'll tell you what, I know the greatest negotiators in the world. Some are horrible people, horrible human beings. Who cares? Some Wall Street guys, they're brutal, they're miserable. You wouldn't want to go out to dinner. They're terrible people. I love them. You know who's our primary representative right now? Carolyn Kennedy. You know how she got the job? 60 Minutes. She went to the White House. She said, I'd love to have a job. I have nothing to do. They said, how would you like to be the ambassador to Japan? She goes, really? You know why I say she's nice? Because my daughter Ivanka likes her. My daughter's so great. She's such a great person. My daughter likes her. She said, Daddy, she's such a nice person. I agree. I don't want a nice, I want to kill her. We're tired of the nice people. See, you're not supposed to say that somebody graduated last or second to last in their class, because you're supposed to be like Frank says, very nice. Folks, I want to make America great again. We want to get down to brass tacks. We don't want to listen to his stuff with being politically correct and everything has to. We have a lot of work to do.
10 years ago, everybody wanted the wall. The Democrats, the Republicans, they couldn't get it. You know one of the reasons they couldn't get it? Environmental impact statements. Did you know that? There were toads. There were it's the most incredible thing. NBC calls me, we'd like to see you. A couple of months ago, the head of NBC comes to see me. And the head of NBC's boss, I don't want to mention names because they're really good people. They're friends of mine, although I probably will never speak to them again either. First of all, Rand Paul shouldn't even be on this stage. He's number 11. He's got 1% in the polls, and how he got up here, there's far too many people. Anyway.
Would we not all be worried to have someone like that in charge of the nuclear arsenal?
Mr. Trump.
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there. That I can tell you.
But Jake, I want to give Mr. Trump.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. I could say absolutely, and everybody. I don't think in terms of that. I think in terms of let's go on and let's make it right. Let's say that Jeb Bush or Hillary or one of these politicians all talk, no action, all controlled by lobbyists and special interests and donors. People like me from previous months, okay? Total control. Bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing. You know what that is, right? We need somebody that can take our jobs back, Frank, because we're going to hell. Our country's going to hell. And Frank doesn't like the word hell, but we're going to hell. I beat the people from China. I win against China. You can win against China if you're smart. But our people don't have a clue. We give state dinners to the heads of China. I say, why are you doing state dinners for them? They're ripping us left and right. Just take them to McDonald's and go back to the negotiating table. Seriously.
One of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
They call me the ratings machine. So I have, you know, she gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
We have totally incompetent people. Now, some people say they're bad people. I don't think they're that smart to be bad people. I just think, honestly, I mean, a lot of people get angry when I say, I don't think they're bad. I think they're stupid. I think they're incompetent. And I said, keep the oil. Do you remember that? And everyone said, you can't keep the oil. It's a sovereign country. You can't keep the oil. I said, keep the oil. We're in there now. You blew it. You shouldn't have gone in. So here's who has it. Iran is taking it, and ISIS has it. And ISIS now is building a hotel in Iraq. They're competing with me. You believe it? And then I see Rick Perry the other day, and he's so, you know, he's doing very poorly in the polls. He put glasses on so people will think he's smart. And it just doesn't work. You know, people can see through the glasses. So he said he shouldn't be allowed on the debate stage. I said to myself, he shouldn't. And then I tweeted, you know, I have many millions between Facebook and Twitter. It's great. It's like owning a newspaper without the losses. It's incredible. Incredible. So I tweeted that Rick Perry should have to have an IQ test before getting on the debate stage. I mean, here's a guy goes on a bicycle to go on a bicycle race. He's 73 years old. He's in a bicycle race. He falls. He breaks his leg during the negotiation. And I tell everybody, and you probably heard it, I swear to you, I will never be in a bicycle race as long as I'm president.
I want to get paid the same as a man, and I think you understand that. So if you become president, will a woman make the same as a man, and do I get to choose what I do with my body?
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job. It's been an amazing journey for me. It's been a lot of fun. I never thought I'd be a politician in my life. He said I'm not. Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm not. I refuse. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that. If I decide to run, you'll have the great pleasure of voting for the man that will easily go down as the greatest president in the history
of the United States. Me, Donald John Trump.
Part of the beauty of me is that I'm very rich.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
Rosie O'Donnell's disgusting. I mean, both inside and out. You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. We're all a little chubby, but Rosie's just worse than most of us. But it's not the chubbiness. Rosie is a very unattractive person, both inside and out. If I were running The View, I'd fire Rosie. I mean, I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired. But Mr. Trump, you're not a nice person.
We don't need nice.
That's true. But actually, I am. I think I am a nice person. I'm actually a nice person. I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second. I'm really smart. We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. No. Nobody would be tougher on ISIS than Donald Trump. Do you understand me? And I'm going to sue you if I have to. Do you understand me? Yes, I hung up. You didn't get disconnected. I hung up. I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I'm really rich. $5 billion we spent on a website. I hire people. They do a website. It costs me $3.
The performance could have been better.
Could have been better.
It could have been a hell of a lot better. But look, I'm not a guy who's going to run around blaming people. So I'm going to take responsibility for that.
That's fine.
So if you want to fire me, go right ahead.
All right, Gene,
but I think
you're fired. I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
Hey, look at this! Donald Trump! Donald Trump! Donald Trump taking down Mr. Trump! Oh, my God! The hostile takeover of Donald Trump!
Do you mind if I sit back a little bit? Because your breath is very bad. It really is. Has this ever been told to you before?
No.
Huh? Okay, then I won't bother.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you a question.
Sure, Mr. Trump.
He's knocking the hell out of Stephanie. He's telling me how bad Stephanie is, and you're interrupting him with nonsense over nothing. Why don't you let him knock Stephanie? He's not knocking you for a change. I mean, how stupid can you be?
Mr. Trump,
Now, let me ask you this. He's knocking Stephanie, and you want him to stop knocking Stephanie. I'm starting to think that maybe you should be fired. What do you think about that?
Mr. Trump,
why wouldn't you let him go? Let me ask you this, Michael. He's killing her. He's going after her. She should be fired, according to him. And you're trying to stop him from talking.
Because, Mr. Trump,
Hey, look, you claim to be like me. The difference is I work hard. You've been lazy. You've been nothing but trouble. And now you cut them off as they're fighting each other for who should be fired. Michael,
yes,
Michael.
Yes, sir.
You're fired. What's the difference between a wet raccoon and Donald J. Trump's hair? A wet raccoon doesn't have $7 billion in the bank.
It seems like this election has been a whole lot about a person who's very high in the polls, but doesn't have a clue about how to govern, a person who has been filled with scandals and who could not lead. And of course, I'm talking about Hillary Clinton.
But now you're beginning to understand that extraterrestrial contact is really extra-dimensional contact as well. It's extra consciousness contact.
And so, what I'm concluding with now is a statement that we are on the threshold of potentially some of the most amazing releases of knowledge in the entire recorded history of humanity. This type of a disclosure is as significant as the advent of someone like Jesus coming on earth, if he actually did, in fact, do the things that the Bible says that he did. It's as significant as what happened to Muhammad, if you believe what's in the Quran. It's as significant as what happened to Moses, if you believe the Old Testament. It's as significant as what happened to Krishna, if you read the Mahabharata and the Drona Parva and other books like that, the Vedas. It's as significant as the Tibetan ascended masters like Padmasambhava reaching rainbow body and ascending, and 160,000 documented cases of that happening. What is going to occur, if this is true, is so vast, it's so amazing, it's almost hard to imagine.
What we're seeing now is multiple insider sources all telling us the same stuff, and these insider sources don't even know each other. They're totally disparate. And once you interpret, once you read the tea leaves of what they're saying, and then you actually apply that to the headlines and to what visible events are going on, now you have a view into what really is a shadow World War III. And in the simplest possible terms, you have now a majority of the U.S. military in conjunction with a majority of governments and militaries of other countries in the world. So it is an international alliance that is very actively working to defeat the cabal. And it's not going to be a coup because the leadership of this country is not going to change. But it's somewhat like a coup in the sense that aspects of the leadership in this country will change. And we can complain about this stuff online. We can say what's wrong and expose it and do what we're trying to do here. You're simply never going to get a vigilante mob of armed civilians who are going to ever be able to do anything significant to stop this thing. And anybody who tries to do that, because the cabal is so good at what it does, you're never even going to get the first assembly to happen because of the surveillance level. So in truth, the only way this could really happen is with the military. And I think the biggest thing that people need to understand is a lot of people are still fighting the Vietnam War.
Right.
They're still listening to Hendrix, Janis Joplin, all these bands that were protesting. They're still living in that era. They're still extremely distrustful of the military. They're still even hating the military.
Still protesting. Yeah. Well, David, let me jump. We got to hit a break here in about 90 seconds. So let me ask you this, and we'll set up for where we're going to go when we come back. What changed for the military and the intelligence community for them to decide now to stand up and put up a fight against the cabal?
There's been a contingent of it that's been doing this since the 1950s, but I would say the biggest inciting incident that really mobilized the alliance was 9/11, where they began to realize that their oath of enlistment to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that they were being lied to and that their lives were being sacrificed for, you know, oily bankers. And that's something that they don't want to die for these people. They want to be heroes, and they want to do what's right, and they want to fight for freedom. And their oath says that that includes domestic enemies. And so they have really, it's been a remarkable revolutionary uprising, and even I'd say maybe in the last 6 months, a sizable number of the military that wasn't necessarily in the alliance before has now gone in. And there's multiple factions. I mean, there's at least 6 major factions in the U.S. military that are alliance factions now. And I don't know that much about them because all this stuff is still very secretive, but this is going to happen. And so everybody, you can laugh at me now, but come back later on after this has happened and listen to this show, and you'll be like, oh my God, there it was. David was talking about this before it happened.
Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here. Well, a lot of information has been, or there has been a lot of talk about martial law and his latest executive order, which I'm going to get into in a moment. And has he declared martial law? Are we under national emergency? What is going on? Well, this report is going to delve into all of that and more. But for starters, let me take you first and foremost to Infowars.com and a report they put out. And this one's titled, Donald Trump Declares a National Emergency and Financial Martial Law Against the Globalist. Now here's another report. This is on Alex Jones' YouTube channel, and it's Red Alert, Trump has declared martial law, MSM total blackout on development. Now he put that out on December 31st, and I wanted to show you both of those because the videos on those are very, very in-depth, and if you want a good analysis on that, I've got that below. But what I want to do in this report is let's go straight to the source and the executive order in which Alex Jones is referencing on that, so you guys kind of get the overall picture of what's really going on and who has what is really going on with Donald Trump and martial law and what that means for the average American citizen. Well, on whitehouse.gov, which is where you can get these executive orders, you can see on the screen that the executive order has been put out by President Trump just this week, and it's executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. Now, a little bit down in this executive order, here's what it states, and I'm going to read it verbatim so you have it verbatim. But it's this: I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, find that the prevalence and severity of human rights abuse and corruption that have their source in whole or in substantial part outside of the U.S., such as those committed or directed by persons listed and the annex to this order have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. Human rights abuse and corruption undermine the value that form an essential foundation of stable, secure, and functioning societies, have devastating impacts on individuals, weaken democratic institutes, degrade the rule of law, perpetuate violent conflicts, facilitate the activities of dangerous persons, tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in that corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the U.S. from abuse of these same persons. Now, he's referencing a certain group of people, in this case, human right lawbreakers, if you will. But he goes on to say, as a result of all of that, I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the U.S. And I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. So there you have it. He has fully declared a national emergency. So you have it straight from whitehouse.gov. I'm going to leave a link below. Now, the question that we need to ask ourselves is there a difference between martial law and a national emergency? What constitutes what, and what does that mean? Are we going to see people on the streets? Well, no, we're not going to see men in guns. Martial law can be declared in certain facets and ways. And in this case, I agree with Alex Jones and believe that it has been declared on the globalists. Now, following that executive order came this proclamation, which I wanted to share with you also on whitehouse.gov, but the president has declared the month of January 2018 as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. All that to say that I think Donald Trump is definitely trying to make a statement against human trafficking. And let's be honest, we've had lots of things happen in the past, lots of human trafficking. We have Anthony Weiner, all the sex scandals from Hollywood, the sex scandals that we hear about from high-up politicians. And to be honest, there are a lot of people who have come out of organizations like the Illuminati, like Skull and Crossbones, that have exposed the pedophile rings within the upper ranks of those in the government. And books have been written, many of which I have read, exposing the atrocities of people that will come to these parties where young children are involved. And now that some of these children are older, they're exposing some of these things, but they pay high dollar and have these pedo rings like Jeffrey Epstein, who has his own island, pedo island, label it as such. But these are some of the things that we're dealing with. And I believe that if we get to the heart of that problem, then a lot of people are going to be going down. A lot of the corruption that we're seeing is going to be falling away. I know there's a lot of talk on the podestas and everything under the sun. So just wanted to kind of break all that down for you guys. I know a lot of you have been asking about that. What's going on? Has it been a real declaration? Obviously, we don't have people in the streets and we don't have military doing things. It's not at that level. When you say martial law, it can take certain various forms, so you have to be careful with how you do that. But obviously, he has declared a national emergency, but specifically in regards to the human rights trafficking. And I think that this is a way for Donald Trump to fight against the globalists. That's my personal take. That's what he's doing. He's not there to go against the American people. He says, we have to do this, otherwise they're going to attempt to take me out. As Q Anonymous and others have leaked, they have been attempting to take him out in some way, shape, or form. This Russian collusion narrative is falling apart. It's fake. And they don't have any evidence, and they know it, and now mainstream media is finally starting to have to admit it because they're looking like idiots. That's the truth. But I believe Donald Trump is doing this to save his presidency, to save what he has in office, and to attempt to save the American people from all of the junk that we've seen over the past few years, from all of this New World Order, United Nations, globalist-minded, and pedo ring kind of people that we're dealing with. So, and I've talked a lot about it over the years.
Well, I want to thank Dina and Ivanka and everybody for working so hard to set this up. It's been so important to them, and I want to make it clear today that my administration will focus on ending the absolutely horrific practice of human trafficking, and I am prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government to the federal and at the federal level and the other highest levels, whatever we can do, in order to solve this horrific problem, getting worse, and it's happening in the United States, in addition to the rest of the world, but it's happening in the United States, which is terrible. Human trafficking is a dire problem, both domestically and internationally, and is one that's made really a challenge, and it's really made possible to a large extent more of a modern phenomenon by what's taking place on the internet, as you probably know. Solving the human trafficking epidemic, which is what it is a priority for my administration. We're going to help out a lot. Solve is a wonderful word, a beautiful word, but I can tell you we're going to help a lot. I'll direct the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and other federal agencies that have a role in preventing human trafficking to take a hard look at the resources and personnel that they're currently devoting to this fight. Now, they are devoting a lot, but we're going to be devoting more. Dedicated men and women across the federal government have focused on this for some time. As you know, a lot of you have been dealing with the federal government, and it's been much more focused over the last 4 weeks, I can tell you that. I cannot thank each of you enough, and the dedicated men and women who run my staff and your staffs, and getting everybody together was terrific. I was so glad I was able to be here. You start with really a tremendous amount of energy and blood, sweat, and tears. Government can be helpful, but without you, nothing would happen. So, again, I want to thank everybody in this room. It's a very, very terrible problem. It's not talked about enough. People don't know enough about it. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to bring it out into the open, and hopefully we're going to do a great deal to help prevent some of the horrific, really horrific crimes that are taking place. And I really can say in this country, people don't realize how bad it is in this country, but in this country and all over the world. So thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.
Human trafficking and forced labor are forms of modern slavery that know no boundaries, spilling across international borders and impacting men, women, and children of all ages and all nationalities. Just last week, the U.S. Department of State announced a $25 million award to the Global Fund to End Modern Slavery. This is just our most recent step in our many efforts to combat this global problem. This administration has identified human trafficking as a top priority, and the President noted on February 23rd that he is prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government to address this horrific crime. With Secretary Tillerson's leadership, the U.S. agencies that make up the President's Interagency Task Force to monitor and combat human trafficking in persons work tirelessly to address all aspects of human trafficking, both at home and abroad.
And then along comes the 2016 presidential election, and we have a situation where the WikiLeaks disclosures lead to this whole Pizzagate thing. And we got to try to get that volume down, it's distracting. So this Pizzagate subject got very, very close to the bone for the elite, because, look, everything that stuff had said, I already had written about in the book Financial Tyranny back in late 2011, early 2012. I had a whole chapter on this stuff in the book about how, for example, the Hollywood movie industry is using techniques that were perfected by the CIA on their actors called MK Ultra mind control or Monarch mind control. We've talked about how there are actual pieces of propaganda that appear in mainstream entertainment, and this includes music videos, films, even things like the Grammy Awards and the Super Bowl halftime show, in which we are seeing blatant Luciferian symbolism shown to us. And I am not a Bible banger, okay? I'm not trying to say that you have to be saved by the blood of the Lamb or any of this kind of stuff. But what I am saying is, you might not take this seriously, but they do. They're very serious about their religion. And they are completely against anyone who believes in God, whatever you choose that word to mean. This is why they hate Jews. This is why they hate Muslims. And this is why they hate Christians. Look at how each of these groups has been demonized by various factions of the cabal, whether it's the Nazis or whether it's the Americans. So, we got to have this war against terrorism. That basically means war against Muslims. And then you see these incredible efforts being made to marginalize Christianity. And I've always said this, why do they care? Church attendance is down to like 11% in America. It's even lower than that in Europe. Nobody is going. So this old world paradigm of where we literally had 38,830 denominations of Christianity. I'm not kidding. That was an officially documented study. 10,000 other religions or factions of religions, but 38,830 versions of Christianity. And of that number, at least a certain percentage of them, and probably a high percentage, thinks that their way is the only way. So do I disagree with the cabal saying that we need to move beyond religion? Not necessarily. I don't think it's cool that there's 38,000 denominations of Christianity all fighting with each other. And when we create religion, we're basically getting secondhand information. And yet there are certain spiritual traditions in which you get experiential knowingness.
of what's really going on. You get direct knowledge, and that direct knowledge is not something you can ignore. If you have a near-death experience, you know that there is life after death. You know that there is a greater place that we're going, and that there is some higher initiative behind being human than just trying to make the best impression that you can while you're here and then dying and disappearing into an eternal black nothingness. It was really strange because both my grandparents were Presbyterians, and they went to church, at least sometimes, you know, the typical holiday visits. But both of them, when they got close to their death, basically didn't believe that anything else was going to happen. So it was strange for me because as a star child, you know, as this ET soul, it never even was a question that there was life after death. When I was 5 years old, I floated out of my own body, and I'm watching myself sleep in bed, and my body is breathing, and I'm still alive. But yet, if that's me down there, then who the hell am I watching this? And that made me realize, okay, well, if I die, I'm just going to go into this other form that's really cool because I can fly and I can do all kinds of neat stuff, and everything seems all right. I was fortunate in that sense to always know that there's something more. So what we're seeing is, ultimately, a spiritual battle taking place here on earth, a battle that most people do not understand. And if you fail to grasp that fundamental truth, then the seeds that are being planted in your mind and heart at this event will probably never grow into anything substantial. The spiritual battle, for me, is the key of this whole thing. And again, I'm not going to pump the Bible because all the other texts basically predict the same situation. I talked about this last night in the prophecy talk. I'm going to talk about it again on Monday in the post-conference event. The only other thing I have left after this is the panel tomorrow at 2 p.m. And we're going to get into disclosure on that as well, in Ancient Civilizations. And it's going to be here. What I'm saying to you now is, you have to look behind the alarmist headlines, and you have to understand that if these people in the world, if these world elites that have controlled 80% of all the money there is to earn in the world, that was proven by Dr. James Glatfelder, a guy who is a graduate of the Swiss Financial Institute of Technology, FIT. And they specialize in teaching people about the financial system. Einstein went to that school. He used supercomputers and cracked the 40,000 plus transnational corporations in a database called Orbis. And the conclusion that comes out of that is that once you get below the surface and you start to use, you know, supercomputers and fuzzy logic to crack those codes, deep down inside, 3 or 4 levels below what's obvious, everybody's got the same people on the boards of directors. All these corporations are actually interconnected. And you only have a super entity, as they called it, of 147 corporations. That's it. 147. And those 147 are earning 80% of all the money in the world. That is staggering. That goes way beyond the idea of, well, I wonder if the government controls the media. It has more to do with what do we see when Glatfelder and his associates published the top 50 names of those 147 corporations. What do you think are in those corporation names? About 2/3 of them are financial institutions. And in the top 50 are listed all of the so-called too-big-to-fail banks, which in the aftermath
of the 2008 financial collapse and the dawning of the Obama administration, a total of what now has been calculated by U.S. senators, including Ron Paul, $29 trillion of money that they printed out of thin air to bail out this sinking ship of these too big to fail banks. $29 trillion. To try to give you a sense of what that means, all the money that is being earned in the entire world is called the gross domestic product, if you use it as a world GDP. GDP, gross domestic product. That's half of the entire wealth of the world, printed out of nothing, with no collateral, with no backing, when they screwed up and their businesses tanked and they weren't making any money, and instead of going bankrupt, they stole half of the wealth of the entire world to bail this thing out. This happened in 2008 after the financial collapse. It's probably one of the reasons why John McCain lost, because he said the fundamentals of the economy are sound. Well, dude, I think you're wrong. Now, why did that happen? Why did they lose out so much? Why did they have this apocalyptic collapse of their value such that they had to do something so big that probably nobody would have ever believed that you would print $29 trillion out of thin air? Why did they do that? Why did that happen? There is a simple intrinsic fact that I want to share with you now, and that fact is this. Some of the people that you would hear at conferences like this, and I don't know if there's any of them here or not, I'm not insinuating that anybody is like this here, but sometimes when you listen to people who are more in the so-called conspiracy theory arena, there is a prevailing viewpoint that I believe, based on extensive research and first-hand testimony with insiders, I believe is wrong. It is this idea that the so-called Illuminati, New World Order, cabal, whatever nomenclature you want to pick, is this all-encompassing, all-powerful, all-seeing eye that has their fingers in everybody's phone, that is surveilling everyone, that is identifying any potential threat and neutralizing that threat. It is the fear of Big Brother, the fear that there is a monster under the bed that you need to be afraid of, and that there is nothing that will stop this beast. And they play on the archetypal fear that we have of things like the devil by showing us satanic imagery right in your face. So unbelievable. You watch some of the Miley Cyrus music videos, some of the Rihanna music videos where she's got devil horns, some of the ones from Katy Perry where she's got the all-seeing eye and she's wearing satanic clothing. Lady Gaga dressed up in animal blood and animal meat. Unbelievable. And you can just tick down the list. It's basically now, it seems like almost everybody out there in the pop music arena who's getting to be really publicized by this controlled media is putting out this type of propaganda. They're putting out these symbols. They're putting out this thought form.
Miley Cyrus was recently asked during a Twitter Q&A with fans if she would ever make out with Rihanna, and her answer was, wait for it, a definite yes. Yes, you heard it right. She said that she would definitely kiss Rihanna. Now, if that's not enough, when Rihanna was asked the same question as Miley Cyrus, guess what she said? Rihanna said yes too.
She tweeted it.
Sell a comic.
Seriously. She tweeted it.
Sell a comic.
Seriously.
What the hell is happening? Is this some type of sisterly love, or is it something bigger? Guys, this is definitely gonna be a visual treat for you. Comment below and tell us what you feel. Thumbs up for Miley Cyrus and Rihanna. And don't forget to subscribe to Hollywood Backstage, your ultimate hangout for all the celebrity gossip.
Hi Hollywood Lifers, this is Holly Buzz with Bonnie
And Chloe.
Miley Cyrus, totally nude in Future's new video, Real and True, and she's painted silver as if she's an alien, and she's reclining on this futuristic chair of some sort.
Listen, I don't know if they're just trying to follow in the footsteps of Katy Perry's E.T. video, which is kind of similar. But listen, Miley loves to show off her body, and again, she's showing it off here. And I really think, Bonnie, that she needs to put some clothes on, alien or not, because again, I think that she's sending the wrong message to everybody.
Well, I don't know, Chloe. I mean, she obviously thinks that she's being very artistic here, and she got great reviews for her Wrecking Ball video in which she was totally naked, and even Liam Hemsworth liked it and thought it was sexy. We found that through a source at Hollywood Life. However, she's been naughty in other ways. She was reportedly making out with a singer called Sky Ferreira, who's also kind of a risque girl, and they were at a party together locking lips, according to this report.
I know, Bonnie. Sky definitely has had some trouble with the law. She was allegedly arrested for doing heroin with her boyfriend, so definitely
not good
would
at all.
not be a good influence on Miley. But listen, we just want Miley to be happy, so whether that's with a guy or a girl, you know what, whatever she wants to do. All right, Hollywood Lifers, subscribe below and tell us, do you think that Miley should put some clothes on? All right, bye guys.
It slowly turned, you let me burn, and now we're ashes on the ground. Don't you ever say I just walked away, I will always want you. I can never lie, running for my life, I will always want you.
Miley's steamy makeout with a Victoria's Secret model. OMPDA. Miley was caught getting hot and heavy with her rumored new girlfriend, 24-year-old Stella Maxwell. The two couldn't keep their hands off each other on Tuesday night while hanging out outside the Palm restaurant in Beverly Hills, where Miley was reportedly shooting a new music video. The situation starts out sweet as the two swap some kisses, but things quickly escalate as Stella seems to push Miley's hands down her pants. The ladies are then interrupted by possible production crew members, but continue their hot hookup shortly after, apparently not caring that anyone is around. 22-year-old Miley and Stella have been linked for a few months, with the pair even posting several flirty pics like these to Instagram in more recent weeks. Miley revealed that she is bisexual in a new interview with Paper Mag last month. She split from boyfriend Patrick Schwarzenegger in March.
Hey guys, it's Chloe with your Holly Buzz. Miley Cyrus kissed Katy Perry, and it looks like she liked it. So during her February 23rd concert at the Staples Center in LA, she was singing her hit song Adore You, which is a romantic ballad which many people think is about Liam Hemsworth. She crouched down at the end of the stage, and you've got to see what happens. Now, something interesting to point out, though, Katy Perry, who once sang about kissing girls and liking it, actually looked as though she pulled away from Miley Cyrus, who also looked in this video to come in with an open mouth. So maybe Miley was hoping for more than she got. Now, even though Katy Perry looked as though she was shying away a bit, at HollywoodLife.com, we've learned exclusively that although this was an unplanned moment, that Katy Perry actually had a lot of fun doing it, that it was fun for the both of them, and actually John Mayer saw this whole kiss go down and doesn't mind either because he's just along for the ride. How cool is that? Regardless, Miley has done this before. Most recently, she was spotted kissing Sky Fiera, who actually opens her Bangers tour. And let's also keep in mind she's been spotted touching tongues with Cara Delevingne and kissing a slew of other people. So Miley Cyrus really is on a kick on this Bangers tour and is pulling out all of the wild stops. So guys, click on me or above to subscribe and sound off below and tell us, did you like it when Miley actually kissed Katy Perry? Bye guys.
Watch some of the Miley Cyrus music videos, some of the Rihanna music videos where she's got devil horns, some of the ones from Katy Perry where she's got the all-seeing eye and she's wearing satanic clothing. Lady Gaga dressed up in animal blood and animal meat. Unbelievable. And you can just tick down the list. It's basically now, it seems like almost everybody out there in the pop music arena who's getting to be really publicized by this controlled media is putting out this type of propaganda. They're putting out these symbols. They're putting out this thought form. And you're seeing things like the Super Bowl halftime show where Madonna shows up as Baphomet, which is the goat-horned god that was worshipped by the Knight Templars.
This isn't the first time we've seen questionable symbolism at the Super Bowl.
Look at these screenshots we've got from last night's Super Bowl performance by Madonna, and then you can also Google image search for yourself and type in Baphomet. And of course we see that Madonna is dressed up as Baphomet. She's sitting on the throne of Baphomet. She's got the horns. Later on she's got the hand gestures of Baphomet.
And now, in Madonna's Satanic Grammys performance, a choir sung while clothed in red robes, and all of her dancers wore Baphomet horns.
Madonna also appears on a video where she is standing on some writing. Closer examination will reveal that this writing is actually Arabic, the language of the Quran.
Kesha, the cracked-out, heroin-addicted looking whore, the poop-filled pop star puppet of the Illuminati, just performed her new single, Die Young, on the X Factor in Australia to some not-so-subtle Illuminati symbolism. Usually when these Illuminati puppets, these satanic skanks, perform in their music videos filled with Illuminati symbolism, it's usually somewhat subtle. But Kesha's controllers, the puppet masters, her management team, whomever, just decided it would be cool to blatantly put in an Illuminati all-seeing eye in the background of her performance, along with some nice satanic pentagrams. You see, the Illuminati's cool. It's the in thing in pop music and hip-hop these days. So let's try to cash in on that and put some Illuminati symbolism in our music video. But they don't understand, they missed the memo that it's supposed to be somewhat subtle. Just a pathetic attempt at really some blatant Illuminati symbolism in this cracked out looking heroin addicted whore's music video. And the new song, Die Young, obviously promotes a materialistic, live in the moment culture, as the song is about her going to a club. She meets a guy who is there with another girl as she tries to steal the guy away. Says, let's live like we're gonna die young, man, because yeah, don't worry about saving for retirement or planning ahead for your future. Just live in the moment, man. If it feels good, do it. In an interview with Ryan Seacrest, Kesha said that one of her songs is about her having sex with a ghost.
There are so many weird topics on this record, from having sexy time with a ghost.
I've heard drunk girls at the bar singing karaoke with way more talent than Kesha, who has one of the worst voices I've ever heard. And the only reason that the mindless, mentally enslaved zombies think she has any talent is because she is promoted by the mainstream as having talent. You see, when somebody is promoted by the mainstream as having talent, the mentally enslaved, mindless hordes believe that that is the new in thing, and in order to go along with the crowd, believe and buy into what the mainstream is telling them. If you heard somebody like Kesha singing at a concert and you didn't know who she was, you would probably boo her and walk out. She's that bad. And she looks like she's a heroin-addicted whore. I mean, I'm not kidding. Look at this girl. This is the satanic skank that is being promoted and held up as a role model for today's youth. That's great. I know that if I had a daughter, I would really love her to hold up someone like Kesha as a role model. That's who I would want my kids to act like and mimic. That's fantastic. Thank you, Kesha. You're doing such a good job. The Illuminati is proud.
And you're seeing things like the Super Bowl halftime show where Madonna shows up as Baphomet. which is the goat-horned god that was worshipped by the Knight Templars.
So everyone is talking about Madonna's Grammy performance. Some people called it a satanic ritual. MTV News called it an Illuminati matador orgy. In this video, I'm going to explain why she did this performance and what it was really about. So before I begin talking about Madonna's performance and her big ego, I want to just give you a visual of how this year's Grammy started out. It started out with people wearing plastic devil horns while watching AC/DC perform their smash hit, Highway to Hell. We see here Katy Perry cheering on AC/DC as they perform with her devil horns in the air. Now, in order to understand Madonna's Grammy performance this year, we're going to have to go all the way back to 2003 during the MTV Video Music Awards, where Madonna kissed Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. We have to remember that Madonna is the Queen of Pop and the High Priestess. So the question is, why did she kiss these two female artists? Well, as the Queen of Pop, she is passing on the torch and giving them her blessings. Madonna has also kissed Nicki Minaj on her birthday in 2012, and then kissed Anderson Cooper at the GLAAD Awards in 2013. Now, some people may not be aware that Madonna is actually bisexual and strongly prefers females. In this article, it talks about a model named Jenny Shimizu who back in the 90s, Madonna treated like a sex slave. She told reporters, "I was her secret booty call, available any time of the day or night for secret sex sessions." Now, to understand Madonna's Grammy performance, we're going to have to go all the way back into the 80s, where we find this picture of her wearing a jacket with a pyramid without the capstone and an all-seeing eye. I couldn't find any quote of Madonna stating that she sold her soul to the devil, but I did find a quote of her saying that she doesn't give a damn if she goes to hell. She said this during the Boy in Oz Australian concert tour.
I'm in a land that they call down under, and nobody gonna steal my thunder. I'm in a land where they say good day, and nobody gonna stand in my way. I'm gonna beat my drums, I'm gonna ring my bell, and I don't give a damn if I go to hell.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're not wasting much time. Let's go straight to the point. Let's observe the Grammys. This video, its intent is to simply just state the obvious. I'm not making anything up. I'm simply here to state the obvious and point it out to you and give it to you and let you know. What you choose to do with the information I share with you is entirely in your hands. I cannot make you do anything with the truth which I'm about to share with you. Last year, I made a claim saying that this year, the Grammys or the VMAs or any awards, what we should expect to see is more intense ritualistic performances, things that portray or point to the occult. And let me not elaborate too much around this. I'm going to just state the obvious and tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. What simply happened at the Grammys was simply a confirmation and an acknowledgement of Lucifer being the head or the Lord of the Grammys. At the beginning of the show, they bring forth AC/DC and they put on a performance in which they sang that song Highway to Hell, and they rocked the entire building. That performance, people were going crazy over that performance. And you see the audience wearing devil horns, and you see other artists and other celebrities wearing these devil horns. Katy Perry alongside with others. I'm not even going to mention their names, they're already there. You can see their faces on this video. These people are well-known Satanists. These are well-known devil worshippers. They know why they are wearing these things. They know whom they are acknowledging. They know whom they are paying their homage to. However, there are many young children and young audience that are watching these things, and they want their own devil horns because of seeing how cool it looks on TV. But they are unaware that having such things is going to act as an altar for devils to freely come in their lives, because these are things that are blessed of the occult. These are things that belong to the occult. These are things that represent the devil and Satan. Further examining the Grammys, check this out. Let's observe Madonna's performance. This one speaks for itself, and I don't even need to put much words into it. Now observe Madonna's performance. This is something that is of a dark atmosphere. Observe it. Just look at the way it begins. Now observe Madonna's performance. This is something that is of a dark atmosphere. Observe it. Just look at the way it begins. It first begins with men who are all dressed in black, and they all have the devil horns. These are the exact same identical horns as that used in the movie Maleficent. From beginning to finish, from beginning to end of her performance, it is purely satanic and purely dark. It is strictly of the occult. The way these men are dressed, the way Madonna is dressed, even before it finishes, she brings out a choir, and this choir is all dressed in red and black. This is all satanic. The choir which she brings out is not a choir that represents anything good. It does not even represent love, as the song was even stating. This is a choir that represents the choirs of hell. Why do I say this, you may ask? Well, observe. First of all, these men that she has dancing for her, these all represent demons. All of them. They represent demons that are surrounding her, and they are her guardians. They are the ones that are looking after her. They are the ones that are lifting her up. You have to understand also that Lucifer, Satan, he once was the leader of the angelic choir in heaven. Satan was once the leader of the heavenly band. And after Satan was cast out of heaven, do you think he gave up his leadership role in music? Do you think he gave up leadership, period? Of course not. We know this. And do you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Satan, he is leading the world and causing the world to rebel against God through music. Satan is the leader of the world's music. All music that glorifies the flesh and its desires all come from Satan. Madonna's performance, it's all revealing. Madonna always does these kinds of things. And here's what I want you to observe, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of her performance, she is seen being levitated away, carried up away from the midst of these beings that represent demons. Or devils. Levitation is a practice that is commonly well known in the world of the occult. I will make a statement for all of you once again. Music in the 21st century is not just to entertain you. It is to indoctrinate you. The music which is being promoted today, it is strictly to indoctrinate you and to instill within your minds with doctrines of devils, also known as the New Age agenda. Do not be surprised. All you need to understand is that these musicians are simply promoting the writings of Aleister Crowley, who is the well-known Satanist. They are simply promoting satanic doctrines and bringing it to you. By entertaining you with Satan, by making you laugh with Satan, by teaching you values of Satan. They are simply promoting satanic doctrines and bringing it to you. By entertaining you with Satan, by making you laugh with Satan, by teaching you values of Satan, your mind, your subconscious mind accepts these things and it registers these things in the back of your head. And as long as these things remain in the back of your subconscious mind, it is only a matter of time before it makes itself known. The next next artist which I would like to briefly speak on is also Katy Perry. We all know her song Dark Horse when she first came out with that song. The music video and also her live performance was strictly satanic. At the Grammys, she performs a song with a Dracula-like effect, where she has a shadow, this shadowy figure behind her that begins to move on its own, and it's not her shadow.
Katy Perry leaves the entire Grammys audience speechless after a beautifully raw and vulnerable performance of her ballad, By the Grace of God. Hey guys, and welcome back to Clever's Trophy Life. Katy definitely gave the audiences the feels at tonight's 57th Annual Grammy Awards, but before she took the stage, domestic abuse survivor Brooke Axtell delivered a powerful and eloquent speech imploring the audience to overcome and ask for help.
Valuable, beautiful, loved.
Then an absolutely stunning Katy appeared in a glamorous yet simple white gown, joined by only a single microphone against a tall white background. Take a look. And not only were her vocals ridiculously on for the duration of the song, but can we take a moment to appreciate how awesome those visual effects were? What started as Katy's own shadow morphs into the silhouettes of 3 contemporary dancers before returning to the single shadow at the end. So what did you guys think of Katy's performance? Did you find it as moving as we did? Sound off in the comments below and then click right over here to check.
In this video, we are examining Katy Perry and her performance at the 2015 Grammy Awards. Many people would watch that performance and they would say, this deserves a 2 thumbs up. It looked innocent, it looked very clean, and it looked well perfected. However, ladies and gentlemen, when you do a careful observation of this, it actually will give you chills. It will give you goosebumps. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you on a journey. First, I would like to share with you a clip from a Dracula movie. I'm going to prove a point with this, and I'm going to link with the performance of Katy Perry. Here is the video clip. I just want you to observe the shadow of Dracula moving on its own. I want you to observe how demonic it is. I want you to make note of the following. The stories of Dracula state that he was once a mortal human being, and eventually he sold his soul and made a pact with the devil. He gave up his soul to Lucifer, to Satan, and upon doing so, he was granted immortality. However, he would live the rest of his days under the curse of being a bloodthirsty vampire. Are you watching this video clip? Do you see how they reveal Dracula's shadow moving on its own? It is a separate entity by itself. This is a symbolic significance. It represents the demon of Dracula, the demon of Count Dracula. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Dracula is not thirsty for blood because it's his own thirst or craving for the human blood. No, it is the craving of the demon of Count Dracula that makes him irresist the taste for human blood. That is the whole significance of that. It is because of this demon that Dracula has lived for centuries. That is the story behind Dracula. Now, let's visit the performance of Katy Perry at the Grammys. So this shadowy figure behind her that begins to move on its own, and it's not her shadow. It begins as being a part of her. Though it's a part of her, it has its own motion, its own personality. In other words, it is a separate entity. The minute this entity begins to move, this shadowy figure behind her, this shadow, which was once her shadow, the minute it begins to move by itself, there's a mist that begins to fall down upon her. This mist begins to consume her. It begins to fall on her side. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the mist is usually associated with darkness, and almost every single scary movie, horror movie that comes out, usually when there's a mist, it's usually an indication of something dark. That's just simply how it is. So, look at this performance again. Some of you may look at this and say, well, look, Katy Perry is dressed in white. She's dressed properly. There's nothing wrong with that. Sure, she's dressed wonderful. I'm going to give her the compliment and say she looks beautiful dressed in white. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at the performance again. Are you looking at it? I bet you're looking at it, but you're not looking at it. Here is what I will let you know. Remember, I've done a video, I've spoken on this at the Maleficent series. I spoke about it, mentioning, and I proved it to you how Hollywood promotes having relationships with demon spirits. The Golden Compass is a good example of that. A lot of these celebrities, they believe and they strongly hold to this, saying that demons are part of us. They are our guardians. They say demon spirits are not our enemies, but they are our friends. And for those of you who are well familiar with the band, well known as Imagine Dragons, you know that that band came up with a song entitled Demons. You know what that song is about. That song is just simply confirming that what I'm telling you is simply true. That song simply promotes the teaching that demons are a part of us and that we should not reject them, neither push them away. Let's not digress too much on this. Let's move on. And so, when we observe this performance, having the understanding that this woman is part of a satanic movement, and we all heard her speaking, saying that she sold her soul to the devil.
That's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music. Yeah. But it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil. That's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music. Yeah. But it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
I had to ask some friends because I was hearing a lot about her, and so they told me, you know, who she was and what she was doing. And I come from the school of thought there's just some things that the public just shouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? If your ultimate goal is to be famous, then you're gonna do a lot to get there, like sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil.
Having that understanding, this shadow is a representation of her entity, her guardian entity, her guardian demon. That's what it is. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, though these performances may seem to entice you or to make you feel like, hey, this thing actually is touching my heart, at the end of the day, what you are being fed is a ritualistic performance. In other words, rituals being performed in front of you, and all you simply are is just a consumer. You're simply consuming ritual after ritual after ritual. And it's only a matter of time before these things manifest into something else.
A spectacle for something truly spectacular. Switzerland and much of Europe are celebrating the official opening of the world's longest and deepest rail tunnel. The 35-mile Gotthard-based tunnel snaking through the Alps to provide a high-speed link between northern and southern Europe, as deep as 2.3 kilometres below the surface. Starting at Rotterdam in the Netherlands and stretching all the way to Genoa in Italy, officials say the line will revolutionise European freight transports. Passengers, including some of the world's most powerful politicians, will be benefiting too. Some journeys that used to take days, now possible in as little as 17 minutes. And when full service begins in December, travellers will see the time it takes for them to get from Zurich to Milan cut by nearly 3 hours. While the $12 billion project has been praised for finishing on time and within budget, the venture hasn't been without opposition. During the 17 years of construction, engineers had to dig through 73 different kinds of rock, some as hard as granite, with temperatures of 46 degrees. 9 workers lost their lives. But Swiss voters fought hard to see the project realised. Today, they were the first ones to enjoy its inaugural trip.
official owners of Gotthard Base Tunnel, Swiss Federal Railways, did a really bizarre opening ceremony on June 1st, led by theater director Volker Hesse. Ghostly figures in front of a humongous eye, and eyes in an eye, the all-seeing eye. People of the same sex touching and kissing body parts in a very disgusting, sensual way, or a baby-faced angel with nude tits, and those are tits with male body, is not a definition of a normal opening. This is satanic. People in white praising the eyes in an eye, the all-seeing eye. The second part of the ceremony took place outdoors, where workmen drew their shirts and stood in formation, and the people came past who wore only underwear and looked very dazed, and 3 seemingly dead workmen dangling in the air, which I call very inappropriate, because Andreas Reichardt, Jacques de Ploy, Heiko Bujek, Albert Ginzinger, Andrea Astorino, Thorsten Elseman, Hans Gammel and Giuseppe Liuzzo died during construction, and they honored them by dangling a baby-faced she-male angel with swinging nude tits, while the dead workers are praising it. I think they are a bunch of sick motherfuckers. Just look how the elite portrayed us, as stupid zombies, because this represents the mass sitting in the train while traveling 35 miles in the tunnel. And here you see the workmen were replaced by 3 fearsome ghosts who floated for a giant eye on a big screen. The man dressed as Capricorn did then their entrance and was accompanied by people who wore white veils. Well, the man screaming and running around the stage appeared on the big screen 3 scarabs for their face, and while the man in white bent for the goat, the eyes looked down on them. Through the opening ceremony of the world's deepest and longest tunnel, the occult elite tells the world that they control the world's resources as well as manpower. In other words, they are the only ones who are able to make such project happen, simply because they control politics, finance and business. Aside from that, by creating overtly occult ceremonies, the elite tells a message to the world, and that message is: this is what we have faith in, this is what we think of you, and there is nothing you can do about it. The Gotthard base tunnel opening ceremony was an Illuminati ritual, satanic Illuminati ritual to honor Satan.
And you're seeing things like the Super Bowl halftime show where Madonna shows up as Baphomet, which is the goat-horned god that was worshipped by the Knight Templars. And the Knight Templars appear to be one of the precursor groups that led to what we call the Illuminati. Not all Knight Templars are bad, not all Freemasons are bad. In fact, the Freemasons caused the American Revolution. That was a good thing. They were standing up against the cabal, the British Empire. If you really want to understand this thing, where you start rewinding the clock a little bit, you go back to the Roman Empire. And when their empire was in decline, after they'd already conquered Egypt and acquired all of that knowledge, secret knowledge that they never publicized, they wanted to restart the game, but they had to relocate where they were going to do it. And as far back as 55 BC, Julius Caesar had invaded England. Before Christ even showed up, Julius Caesar had invaded England, and that was the precursor to the Roman incursion of England beginning in 100 AD. Why is England so important? Because it is a perfectly defensible continental island. It's like a mini continent with a nice big moat around it. That means that if you fortify your shore, the only way anybody could invade is navally. And you look around Europe and there is no other place like England where this would work. Every other country has, at best, only a mountain border. But mountains are easier to traverse than water. In water, you got to have all your supplies, all your food, all your military people on a ship that has to land on the shore. They have to disembark from the ship. They have to charge into your land. That makes it much, much harder, especially if you have enough firepower that you can start shooting arrows at them when they're trying to get out of the ship, that kind of thing. So England was the perfect place. So as of about 100 AD, the Romans began relocating to England. When I visited Graham Hancock, he lives in the city of Bath. And he actually has, his house is right near Roman baths that were built around this time, 100 AD. And they're still there, built by the Romans. You got to go a little bit farther and you got to see, okay, wait a minute. The people that had the secret knowledge held over in the Library of Alexandria, the people who were aware of what the Vatican initiative was, they relocated their base of operations to England, and that's where they built their financial center. The Vatican remained the so-called spiritual center. That becomes the financial center, and then when the time was right, they had these ancient maps. They knew there was land over on the west that became what we now call America, perhaps named after Amerigo Vespucci. There's a couple different theories. And they knew about this, and so Queen Elizabeth was one of the first people. Henry VIII was her father, and Henry VIII, based on a book like Born in Blood, The Secrets of Freemasonry, talks about the idea that Henry VIII was the first real cabal king of England, that they kind of had lost control. They kind of insinuate themselves into the monarchy, so Elizabeth is also one of these Illuminati monarchs. We know for a fact that Queen Elizabeth was working with a court astrologer named John Dee, and that he was using black magic to ensure England's success. There were two different times that a massive Spanish armada started to come towards England. They wanted to do that invasion by sea. And John Dee is conjuring up probably what ended up now being the Draco. We didn't really know that for sure back then, but it's looking like that's who it was. And they say, the Draco say to them, don't worry, don't even try to fight them, don't send any ships out into the sea, don't try to meet them in the water, just sit back and do nothing. Well, we know you guys are real, you're materializing in the middle of our pentagram here, so, okay. And these, the Spanish Armada comes in 2 times in a row, documented history, this massive, massive storm shows up that was so bad that the entire armada got wiped out. Everybody sank. This was in the 1500s, early 1500s. Twice. It happened twice. Now that looks like magic, but remember, if you have anti-gravity, if you have a flying craft, all you'd have to do is create gravitational disruption around those ships and start boiling the sea, and then they'll all sink. Easy. Easy for somebody who is an extraterrestrial.